Most people seem to have gotten over this, but I wake up pretty much every day just feeling shocked that there's a universe, that there's consciousness, that I'm alive, that I seem to be the result of billions of years of evolution leading up to me as this sentient creature that can interact with other sentient creatures. It's weird, right? It's an incredible thing that we're alive and here right now. Also, I'm going to die. And you're going to die. Which I think raises a pretty interesting question, which is, how do we want to spend our time? How do we want to spend our time with our loved ones? How do we want to spend our time with ourselves? But what I want to talk about today is, how do we want to spend our time at work? And it's a particularly amazing moment in history to be asking a question like that, because on the one hand, we've got some really big problems. Humans are destroying the environment at an ever-increasing pace. Huge amounts of the population are in poverty. The political infrastructure that we have seems to have completely lost its mind. But, on the other hand, it feels like we're also empowered in totally unprecedented ways. Right? We can access nearly all human knowledge in just a few keystrokes. We can build organizations and companies and movements that in some cases touch billions of people in just a few years. The reason this matters is that history is not happening to us. Collectively, we are authoring the future together. Right? The choices we make about what we work on can directly impact whether the world gets a whole lot worse or a whole lot better. And as entrepreneurs, I think we're in a particularly interesting position where we can hopefully help redesign the world for the better. Also, in a world in which more than 70% of people live on less than $10 a day, what a privilege that we get to choose what we work on. Now, when you're choosing what to work on, I think where you want to start is by asking yourself, what kind of world do you want to help co-author? I'm guessing we all have different ideas for what we want the future to look like, but I bet there's a lot in common. I, for one, want to live in a world with more joy and less needless suffering. I'd like to live in a world in which everyone has the ability to manifest their full potential, regardless of their race, or their sex, or their economic background. A world that is sustainable, so that life can flourish on this planet for endless generations to come, instead of us leaving our grandchildren a mess that they can't clean up. I want to live in a world in which everyone has access to safety and health, loving, accepting community, where everyone can meet their full material needs and have full autonomy over their lives and their bodies. What's your vision? Now, progress isn't made through pie-in-the-sky utopianism. We make it by making incremental progress. But as entrepreneurs, what could you or I do to help make progress in the direction of our visions? I think a lot of things. You could donate time and money to nonprofits. You can buy sustainable products. You can join coalitions that are in support of important causes. You can build a great culture for your employees. But I think that the biggest thing that we can do as entrepreneurs to contribute is to actually build products that themselves help solve important problems and directly have positive impact in the world. Now, I know a lot of you are already working on something that you're passionate about and that is driving the world forward. Thank you. For those of you who are thinking about what you want your first startup to be, or are already dreaming about your next startup, or have been looking at all the recent political turmoil and feeling suddenly called to something even bigger than what you're working on, I'm here to recruit you to be part of the community of entrepreneurs that are trying to build a more thriving world. Because there are big, important problems that need brilliant minds on them. And I'm confident there are people in this room who can help to solve them and build big businesses at the same time. Now, sometimes I hear people say, I'm going to make a bunch of money, and then I'll think about doing good with it. But you don't have to wait. You can make your money while having big impact on the world. And frankly, the world can't wait 30 years for you to retire. We've got big problems right now. So, what needs to be done? I would say civilization as a whole could use an upgrade. And you can think of civilization as being an ecosystem of a bunch of interrelated components. So I just want to look at a few of these and look at what I think are some intriguing questions, just to give you a sense of the kinds of big opportunities there are to help upgrade different parts of civilization. Let's start with jobs. So jobs, the old ways of being employed are disappearing fast, in no small part thanks to the technology industry. And jobs was the #1 issue in the last American election cycle, and I think a lot of election cycles around the world. Now, there's a lot of inspiring companies that are working on this problem. Thumbtack's a great example. In just the last year, they funneled over $1 billion towards small businesses, and themselves are a $1.3 billion company. But this is just the tip of the iceberg, right? We have to start asking the big questions, like, how are we going to educate the next billion highly skilled knowledge workers? Or, even more radically, are there ways we can enable people to make a living while working less? I mean, wasn't that the point of technology in the first place? And notice, no existing institution has solutions to these problems. But maybe someone in this room can help figure it out. Well, let's look at media. Journalism is critical to a functioning democracy. And yet the traditional business model for journalism creates bad incentives and is being eroded quickly in the age of the internet. But what if you could create a new business model that would incentivize truth and substance over clickbait? Or maybe you could come up with a way for society to be able to make sense of current events in a totally different way than we've thought of so far. Or take energy. If we can't get our energy usage to be sustainable, civilization as we know it is not going to continue. That's just the definition of sustainable. Now, lots of exciting companies working on this. Mosaic, for example, has built a crowdfunding platform for solar loans. And using that, they've financed more than $1 billion of solar loans in just the last year. And because they take a little cut each time, they've built a huge business for themselves. But again, just the tip of the iceberg. Right? How are we going to get the whole world to carbon neutral? Now, excitingly, in just 2016, this was roughly the year that the price of solar came down below the price of fossil fuels for the first time in history. So there are hundreds of billions of dollars waiting to be unlocked here. There's probably going to be some regulatory nightmares, but we've worked through those as an industry. This is, yeah. Now, you're probably not an expert. It's hard up here. Now, you're probably not an expert in energy technology, but you can partner with people who are. And there's no reason that we can't, at this point in our careers, learn something new. I mean, think about people in the 80s who had the prescience to switch into software and killed it. I mean, we could be here all day. In health, are there ways that we can use big data in order to prevent people from getting sick in the first place? In education, can we create new personalized learning platforms that are so much better than anything any child has ever experienced so far? And what is the right UI for democracy? Are there ways that we can harness the collective energy of citizens right now to be able to make real, lasting change in government? I mean, there are big problems all around us. And thanks to emerging technology like VR and AI, there are solutions to these problems that I think are possible now that even 5 years ago were inconceivable. If you can help create even a dent in these kinds of problems, you'll help produce a fundamental part of the future. Now, not all big problems can be solved with for-profit entrepreneurship, but as we just saw, there are tons of opportunities to simultaneously create big businesses and have big impact at the same time. And this is really exciting. And what's great is that when you find one of these opportunities, and you do have to look for it, but when you find one of these opportunities, you get this virtuous cycle between purpose and profit. So in one direction, you can take the huge financial resources that you've accumulated and funnel that directly into your mission. So for example, Airbnb recently, they've taken their financial assets and applied those directly toward offering free housing to refugees. And that's in service of their mission of helping people to belong anywhere. And then in the reverse direction, having clarity of purpose can be hugely valuable in building a great business. So I know at Asana, we've experienced this tremendously. The reason that Dustin and I left Facebook to start Asana was that we were passionate about exactly these sorts of problems. And we realized that solving them, every single solution comes down to teams of people working together. And we knew from experience and from research that working together is really hard. Literally, people spend more time on work about work than they spend on work. And so we thought, if we could build a piece of software that would enable anyone working on anything to be able to move more quickly, we wouldn't be directly tackling any one of these problems, but indirectly, we could be in service to all of them at the same time. Customers tell us today that on average, Asana makes them 45% more effective at whatever it is that they're doing. And that just makes me so happy, because these are projects that deserve to be 45% more, to be moving 45% more quickly. You know, when I was a kid, I didn't sit around being like, when I grow up, I want to start an enterprise software company. But given the particular skills that I have, I feel like this is one of the most leveraged things I can do to help positively contribute to the world. But then on top of that, having that clarity of purpose has been hugely valuable in us turning Asana into the big business that it is today. It's given us focus, it's given us motivation, and it's been critical to recruiting top talent. Because, not surprisingly, a lot of the most talented people really want to know that their work is going towards something that matters. So helping teams work together with less effort is our purpose at Asana. What's your purpose? That's really the question I came here to ask. And just to remind you that this is your life, this brief, improbable life that you've been given on this weird, beautiful planet. And what you do with your life matters, because you are one of the co-authors of the future. Look, building a startup is fucking hard. Asana has been a long and grueling journey, even though we're doing well. If you're going to spend countless hours of your life building a company, and I'm not even sure I recommend it, but if you're going to spend crazy hours doing this, what is the world you want to help create with it? What is the contribution that you could make that would make your soul sing? What are the ways in which you'd like to help others? What are the special strengths and gifts that are unique to you that you could give to the world? My hope for everyone here is that you get to wherever you're trying to go. And then when you get there, you're able to look out and feel happy about the more beautiful world that you helped to create. Because life is short. Do something that matters to you. Don't wait. Thank you.